even though it feels like a tormented, bumpy road, forgiveness in itself flows gradually. So, on this road to forgiveness, there is no such moment where we can stop and say, I've totally forgiven, I am okay with everything in my life, that's it. On the contrary, forgiveness seems to come more like a natural effect of everything we're doing. And the more we learn, the more we travel down this road, the more we discover that we get to forgive. The more we're able, but even more than that, we discover that we are more at peace, we are more confident, we are more able to prevent some situations and to gather layer upon layer of forgiveness over the same hurt. It's as if on the spiral of forgiving, while we learn to forgive more, we understand more points of view, more perspectives that we can still develop in order to forgive better. So if my children, my life partner, my colleague at work hurt me, I may reach a point where I say, I think I've forgiven them. I think I'm okay with my relationship with them. And then we begin to learn more. And then we understand more. And at some point we say, I think I understand how to better forgive them. And that is a whole different level. On this road, while going through understanding and giving up hostile attribution style and managing our emotions and broadening our perspective, there comes a point where we need to take a break and assess what we've learned. In this process, forgiving does not mean that we need to give up on ourselves. On the contrary, while forgiving, there's a certain point that comes with the awareness of the fact that we need to learn how to prevent from going to the same situation again, and how to develop our skills to better manage our relationships, our inner lives, our emotions, our thoughts. It's that moment where we take a break and we say, all right, this happened to me, and I've been caught in the unforgiving cycle, and I've managed to get out of it, and I've managed to understand better, but what exactly did I learn? And how can I prevent this from happening to me again? Because if we've learned nothing from everything that happened, then we're prone to make the same mistakes, we're prone to expose ourselves the same way, and to go through that cycle again and again. And sometimes that's what happens in codependent relationships. That's what happens when we pretend to forgive, or we delude ourselves that we've forgiven, and we keep ourselves in dangerous, abusive, harmful relationships. So at some point on the road to forgiveness, we need to start a learning process that never ends. A learning process that begins with setting boundaries. Those boundaries have a lot to do with protecting what's valuable. but also with learning how to make ourselves permeable to the people who earned the right to know our story, with the people who connected with us in a positive and meaningful way, while keeping at a certain distance those people who continuously or periodically harm us, with those people who can maybe at this point bring nothing valuable to our lives, and also with those people that we cannot help. Setting boundaries means that we know exactly what is healthy for ourselves at this point, and which parts of our being are still in need to heal and therefore not open to further damage, to possible intrusions. That means that if I'm in an abusive relationship and I decide to get out, I can only forgive after I've put some distance between me and my abuser, and I understand that there's no way I can heal that person, because the wounds inside me are too great for that, and I don't have the resources, and it's not my job to do it. And at that point, when I understand what my boundaries are, my healthy boundaries that keep me together, I begin the process to grow, to develop new abilities and new skills. And those skills have to do with prevention. And then it's the moment where the true perspective of life, my life philosophy, broadens. I understand where I am, and then I open myself to learning. And from this perspective, forgiving is a never-ending road of learning. Therefore, this project, focusing on the psychology of forgiveness, is a place rather than a lesson. It's a place where we can search together for answers to our questions about forgiving. But it's also an opportunity to analyze little by little the abilities that we need to acquire and to develop in order to better forgive. Because authentic, life-altering, genuine forgiveness begins with the little steps. It begins with the little forgiveness acts. You cannot do some major forgiving process if you haven't started with the little things, with forgiving the little offenses and better understanding how you react. On this road to learning and to forgiving, there are many evaluation stops where you get to sit down, to think about yourself, maybe to do a little psychological hygiene, and to wonder what the forgiving skills have been developed for you and which skills you still need to develop and what level you've reached. And while doing so, you may enter or you may embark on different roads, on different travels. Some of them may mean that you will start healing relationships and you will start rebuilding And some of them mean that while you've set your boundaries, you've realized that some relationships are beyond repair. And you don't need to do that in order to forgive. This is why, at least on the core level, the road to forgiveness is a solitary endeavor. Because you need to forgive for yourself and for your well-being and for your health and for everything that you want to become. And while learning to do that, you can connect to others and to their road to forgiveness. And on those lucky, happy endeavors, forgiveness becomes a two-way street, where we forgive people who mean something for us, and we mend relationships and fences, metaphorical fences, and we understand better how forgiving and being forgiven fit together as a whole. So, on the road to forgiveness, there is a point of beginning, but there's no end. Because while learning to forgive, we may turn back in cycles to deal with residual negative emotions. We may discover that we've grown on a spiral, and even though we've reached the same situation, the position that we're taking now is somehow higher and better developed. But more than that, at the end of the road, there's another one. And there's a new peak. And there's another mountain to climb. And there's more to understand and more to learn. And this is the best news about forgiving.